It's me, Margaret, and I'm here with an Addi video. Hadn't had one in a really long time, but this one comes from as a request from Laura Brown. It is a Fair Isle reversible beanie. Now I need to tell you, where did I learn this Fair Isle technique? That was from Catherine of theanswerladyknits, and I want you to check out that video. I'll put the link in the description box below because she gives you a little bit more tips and tricks about the wherewithal of doing this stitch. But let me show you what I've created using her technique. Now you saw the purple and pink side, but how about the purple and gold side? So you have two hats in one, so to speak. Now it is made just like the typical reversible beanie, one long tube, two gathered ends, but you have the Fair Isle on either side. Of course, you can make the Fair Isle as long as you want. You can do it the whole way if you want to. It's just a little tedious, not very fast at all. So I chose to do an 8-row Fair Isle. And just because everybody wants to know, this was Vanna's choice. I did 130 rows total from one end to the other. And but you need to keep in mind the proper placement, which I'm about to show you. I like Vanna's choice on the Addi, and that's why I tend to use it a lot, but it is one of the thicker worsted weight yarns, so it does come out a little tight when you double it like this. So I would think that this hat would fit a child best. It's pretty tight on my head. I do the 130 rows where it does come out a little bit long, but I like that big, thick cuff that turns up because it gives you extra warmth on your ears. So I wouldn't change anything like that. I'm pleased with this, but keep that in mind in case you want to alter it. All right, I've cleared my counter, although I don't think it's going to work in this dry conditions here. I'm filming in winter time. I'm going to go ahead and cast on, and because we're assuming you have all the basics, you know how to do this. And now you want to complete 10 rows in your main color. 9, 10. Okay, I overshot that because I'm distracted by a cat sitting right there at the window. So there's the third black needle, so I'll count that as my starting needle, so to speak. And just a heads up, when I count my 10 rows, I do not count my cast on row. I don't know if that's an actual correct thing or not, but that's what I do. So here's where Catherine's Fair Isle technique comes into play. First of all, you've got to release your main yarn from the feeder, close it up. Then with your new yarn, and I like to leave enough for sewing in, so keep that in mind. I make a slip knot, and then I put that on the first needle, which is now going to be my first white needle. Now the next thing she taught us was to hold our yarn in such a way that we could get to both colors. Alright, so we started with the gold on the first needle. So when we come around, we have to put the purple on the next needle. I think I need to have a shorter grip here. So we catch the purple on the next needle. My loop is too big. Okay, so we slowly come around, and this time we're going to put our gold on the next needle, and then purple. Gold, purple, gold, purple. And you just continue on slowly. After a while, you start getting better at it. She says, as she gets extra slow right there. But you're just making sure that it catches as you go around here. What did I do? Purple, so now I'm gold. Purple. Gold. And plus, I have a camera right in my line of vision, so I'm doing this by looking around the camera. Much easier when you're in your own comfortable little way. Whoops, look, I got 2 right there. So you just have to be very careful as you take turns with each of the yarn. My Addi's squeaky, isn't it? It's not hard to turn, it just sounds really bad, so I guess it's time to be brave, open it up, and give it some maintenance. Alright, I'm coming up on the end here. So as Catherine points out, there are only 46 needles on this machine, which is kind of a strange number to work with. So if we continue on the next row doing the same purple gold pattern, then all of our golds are going to line up and all of our purples are going to line up, which could be a very interesting look. But that's not what I'm going for. I want mine to be a purple on top of a gold and a gold on top of a purple, sort of, you know, alternated like that each row. So what I'm going to have to do, because of the number of needles, is I'm just going to have to do, let's see, I finished with this is my last needle and it's a purple, so my first needle here, white, will have to be a purple as well. So I'm going to have 2 purples in a row in order to have all the rest be alternated. And that's okay, that's not really a problem. Okay, so now I start the pattern again. Gold, purple, gold, purple, gold, purple. And you just continue on around like that, completing 8 rows for this hat. Once I moved the camera, I really got going at a good clip. That split, did you see that? Don't want that. And in the split process, I was actually doing the wrong color. See, purple is coming from here. Purple is on the last stitch, so clearly it's supposed to be a gold here. And we're coming to the last few stitches. And I'm going to stop right here, since this was considered my last stitch. Okay, so I finished my 8 rows. Don't need this color anymore, so I gave it a snip, leaving enough room to sew in. And I'm going to continue on with the purple. Now let's take a moment to look at the construction of this hat. We started at this end, and we've just completed the gold Fair Isle. So now we're moving into the long purple section. So to continue on with the middle portion of the tube, we're going to use the purple. So we want to do 94 rows of purple for our center part of the tube. Okay, so now we repeat the process because we've completed our 94 rows. We remove the main yarn, make a slip knot with our new yarn. Can't be too big, remember. And you just slip it over that first one. I feel really weird because usually my first black one is my first one. And then you begin the switching out process. Get your hands like you like them. Purple out of the way, so the first one's pink, the second one's purple, and then pink, purple, pink, purple, pink, purple, and continue on for 8 rows. But wait, let me throw in this reminder at the end of the first row. Now remember, when you get back, here's my last stitch and I have purple. In order to alternate these, you need to do 2 in a row with your 46 needle Addi. So I have just finished purple here. I'll do 2 pinks here. So now look, a pink, can you see that one? A pink is coming up. So it's time for a purple. See, so now you're back on your alternating track. So continue on for 8 rows. So let's talk about counting rows on the back in case you lose count. This is where we stretch from one needle behind one and caught the next. So this long thing would be 1 row. So we count only the one color. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there you go. Note that it's really hard to count your rows when you're using variegated yarn. The colors are alternating throughout, so sometimes it's really hard to tell which row you're on. So just as we did last time, we're finished with the pink, so we get rid of that, leaving enough to sew in. And then we do the last little part, which is 10 rows of purple, which will be our bind off point. I have 4 more rows to go, and I ran out of purple yarn. I have to tell you, I'm not sure if the yarn that I started with was a full skein. I may have used a little bit out of that, so I don't know. Just sharing that little tidbit of information so you can plan accordingly. And then we bind off in the usual way after we complete our 10 rows. And again, this is assuming you already know how to bind off. Okay, so this is the top of your pink side. So you pull tightly as you normally would and sew in your ends right here. But you don't want to close up both ends until you have sewn in all your loose ends here. You don't have to do a beautiful job because you're closing this up. Nobody's ever going to see the inside, but the key thing is not beauty but security. You want to make sure that these aren't going to come loose. So we need to sew those in. So here I've turned it inside out, and this is where we had done the slip knot, hooked it onto the needle. So now all I have to do is just secure this a little bit. Again, it doesn't have to be pretty because it's going to be hidden on the inside, but I just want to make sure. I'm going to split that yarn. It helps keep everything, I don't know, tighter, creates more friction. But you sew it in your favorite way, whatever method you like best. And what I'm doing, if you're interested, is just merely splitting. You pick up a piece of yarn, see, and then I split it. This is something I've kind of learned over the years. Well, actually, I read that somewhere, but I have learned through proof that it works really well. And then just give it a little snip. Again, this is not going to be shown. And repeat the process with this. And then I'll have to go over here where I added that little bit. Not sure why I ran out of yarn. Can't remember if one skein is supposed to do one complete hat or not, but so you may not find that you'll have to add. Of course, it'll be depending upon what yarn you're using. And then, of course, repeat the process with your other side. So I sewed this end closed up here, but the last step, after you've sewn your ends in on the inside, is to pull tightly, roll this in, and keep pulling until you get it nice and closed. Sometimes you have to help it out a little bit. And now we have to sew this end in. I got rid of the excess there. Now you're going to want to stuff the gold in inside the pink end, or vice versa, and you can feel the knots to line them up. And it's a good idea to sew them together, especially if you're giving it to someone else. I'm not going to do it right now, but I'm not finished filming the video, so I want to be able to show you the tube and how it works. And then once you fold up the edges, you have a really cute little hat.